Today on Sugar Spun Run, I'll be showing you how to make pie crust cookies. Hey Sugar Spun Bakers, Sam here, and today I have another carefully tested, well-researched, and perfected recipe. Honestly, this is a very quick and simple recipe for pie crust cookies, great for making with leftover pie scraps when you're making Thanksgiving or pie any time of the year. And this is a great one to make with the kids as well. Now, before we begin, the first thing you want to do is get your oven preheated to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, today's recipe can be made with either store-bought pie crust or with homemade pie crust. Of course, I am going to be using my homemade pie crust today. Now, I am using a full pie crust for today's recipe. The instructions are the same if you're doing a full pie crust or if you're just making these cookies out of whatever leftover scraps you happen to have. Since I'm using my homemade pie crust, I need to roll it out. And I would say to roll it out into a 12-inch circle, but mine's not gonna be quite a circle, as you can tell. I'd say this is probably about between 1/8 and 1/4 inch thick. Now, ideally you would use cookie cutters for today's recipe, and that's what I'm doing. I have these cute fall leaf cookie cutters. If you don't, you can just cut the pie crust into strips, cut it into diamonds. You can really make them whatever shape you'd like. But I have these cute cutters, so I'm going to be using these today. Now cut out as many cookies as you can out of your pie dough, and then we're just going to use a spatula and carefully lift them, and we're going to move them over to a parchment paper lined baking sheet. And of course, once you've cut out as many cookies as you can regroup the scraps again and re-roll them out and keep cutting cookies until you've used up all of the dough. So now that you have your cookies cut out, we just need to do a couple more things. First, I'm going to make my cinnamon sugar mixture because the cinnamon and sugar adds a nice sweetness and flavor to the cookies. And I have 1/4 cup of granulated sugar here, and I'm going to add 1½ teaspoons of ground cinnamon. Just whisk these together until they're completely combined. We'll set that aside for now. And then here in this bowl, I have 1 large egg. I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of water to that. We're gonna whisk this really well. We're just making an egg wash, that's all we're doing. And I'm just using the same whisk that I used for my cinnamon sugar because it doesn't really matter here. And I just want to beat this really well so that it's as smooth as possible. Next, you're going to need a pastry brush, and we're just going to dip that lightly in the egg wash and carefully, gently brush the surface of each cookie. If the cookie's sliding around a lot on the parchment, you can just dab the cookie instead. But the cinnamon and sugar is going to be sticking to that egg wash, so you do want to make sure you get it covered. Once you've brushed all of your cookies, just grab your cinnamon sugar mix, and we're just going to sprinkle that evenly over the cookies. Now, you may not use all of the cinnamon and sugar, that's totally fine. All right, once you have added all of your cinnamon and sugar, we're going to take these over to our 375 degree Fahrenheit preheated oven. Now, typically I find that my cookies need about 10 minutes in the oven. You're going to want to bake them until they're golden brown, but if your pie dough is a little bit thicker than mine is, it may take a little bit more time in the oven. If your pie dough is thinner than mine is, it'll take a little bit less time in the oven. And of course, the time can vary depending on precisely how large you have made your cookies. So I just recommend keeping an eye on them, especially for your first batch, and just bake until they're nice golden brown in color. And these are looking pretty much perfect, so we're just going to let them cool on the baking sheet, and then we can dig in. And look how easy that was. These are great for snacking on. I love eating them, my son loves eating them, but they also make cute decorations, like if you want to put them on top of a pie that you've baked. They're really fun, versatile, and they're just really delicious, especially if you use my homemade pie crust. I hope you guys enjoyed today's super simple recipe, and if you tried this one out, please let me know what you think. I always love hearing from you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. They're just so easy and so good.